In today's media-driven world, we are bombarded with images and ads constantly. But how has this shaped how we think about gender, about race, even about ourselves? Well, Ringling Museum's newest exhibit examines our ad-driven world, and the associate curator, Christopher Jones, is here to tell us all about it. Now, you have a new artist showcase that you are showcasing. That sounds very exciting. Hank Willis Thomas. Tell us about him.
Sure. So Hank Willis Thomas is a conceptual artist, right? So he works with ideas. And his work explores how marketing, advertising, and branding have shaped how we think about our identities, ethnic identities, racial identities, gender identities, and how those identities have changed sort of over time.
Why did you decide to go with this exhibit?
Well, about 2 years ago, we acquired a set of work, Hank's series of provocatively titled A Century of White Women, Unbranded, A Century of White Women, 1915 to 2015.
Really?
And he looks at 100 years of advertising directed towards women or depicting women. And so he represents these images without any sort of logos or ads or text, so we can see images of how women have been depicted kind of through time. So it's a set that we acquired a couple of years ago, and then we wanted to show more of Hank's work in conjunction with that series.
And he has an African-American exhibit. He looks at the African-American and how that's shaped through ads.
Absolutely. So some of the other work that we have on display are some of his earlier series in which he looks at depictions of African-American identity and culture through ads from 1968 to 2008. That series is Unbranded, Reflections in Black by Corporate America. And so he takes away the kind of ad copy, so we don't know what the ad is actually advertising or trying to sell. We just see the images of how, you know, black people have been portrayed. And sometimes those are really sort of, you know, disturbing images. Yes. Sometimes they're quite humorous as well. So Hank has, you know, quite an ironic wit and kind of sense of humor when he's showing us these images. Sometimes we do laugh at them. Other times they're a bit more heavy and kind of ponderous when we see how black people have been depicted through time.
I understand some of these images have never been seen together before.
So Hank he goes through archives and looks at old magazines. He collects old advertisements, and for about 15 years he's put together his own archive of these types of images that he works from. And so for the first time he's actually lending these to be shown along with his own artwork. So you'll get to see the original kind of vintage ads alongside Hank's new work.
So what do you hope people take away from this? What thoughts do you hope that they leave with?
Sure. Well, you know, hopefully people will be kind of provoked to kind of think more closely about the advertisements and kind of consumer culture that we're inundated with. Often we see ads and we don't really kind of think about what sort of messages are being presented outside of what's being sold to us. So I think it's really causing us to think about the history of how we presented ourselves and how we continue to today.
Are you seeing any kind of, you know, trends like with the women for over 100 years? Did it change a lot? Was there a trend that sort of was standard throughout the 100 years?
Well, it's really fascinating because Hank likes to look at, you know, kind of changes through time. And so we see, you know, earlier ads when women are beginning to be marketed to before they have the right to vote even. And then, so those kind of focus on domesticity. Later through World War II, we see women kind of serving in the armed forces and going into the workplace. And then in the 50s and 60s, we see a lot more kind of misogyny kind of reemerge. So we see progress, and then we see kind of the same kind of tropes recurring again and again, like women being presented as, you know, sexualized objects and that. So there's this sort of back and forth we see through time.
I think it's so exciting that Hank Willis Thomas is actually going to be at the Ringling and talk about his work.
He's an amazing speaker, and it's great we've got him to come March 22nd in the evening. He's going to come to speak at the Ringling, and please don't miss it. He's absolutely wonderful to hear.
Fantastic.
What a great opportunity. The exhibit runs until June, and for more information, you can go to ringling.org. Next, a musical review of Shakespeare from the Florida Studio Theater.